Well, a buddy, NFL draft college analyst. Now he's at the Ringer. Good for him. Todd McShay, haven't talked in a while, joining us live in the herd. Todd, how are you? Great to have you on. Congrats on your success and congrats on going to the Ringer, man.
Thanks, man. It's good to talk to you. It's been a minute. You were always supportive of me at our during our last adventure, if you will, adventure certainly at ESPN, and it's great to catch up with you.
So it's all I keep hearing from my people in the league is this is not a great draft, and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a couple areas that you like it. So if I said to you, give me two position groups, Todd, that you'll go to the well on, and you'll say, okay, it's a good year for what in this draft?
Running backs and defensive line, Colin. I mean, I was looking at it the other day. I went back 30 years, and then I kind of got bored. In the last 30 years, I think it was 26 defensive linemen. That was the highest number we've seen. In talking interior defensive linemen and edge. And this year, I've got 35 players along the interior and at edge that could get drafted in the first 3 rounds. So even if I'm off by like 8, if my evaluation's too high on 8 of these guys, it still will be a record number of interior defensive linemen and edge defenders that come off the board. And then at running back, this is the best group I've ever evaluated. I've been doing it 25 years. And it starts with Ashton Jeanty, right, who's going to be at worst case, he goes 10 to Chicago. We could see him go 6 to the Raiders. I mean, he's when I'm talking to guys in the league, it's like, yeah, he's a running back, but I've got a grade on him that's like just a tick below the top 2 guys that everyone's talking about in Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State, and Travis Hunter, the generational talent, both sides of the ball from Colorado. And then beyond just Jeanty, you've got Omarion Hampton, who's like 220 plus, light on his feet, powerful, best missed tackles force of any running back after the catch is a receiver. So
yeah, he's
got
bull.
That combination.
Yeah.
Oh, he's unbelievable. I've got 18 guys, Colin, at the running back position the first 4 rounds with grades. The 3-year average is 10. We're talking about almost twice as much talent in the first 4. Yeah, it's crazy. And you go down the list of these guys, and it's beyond Jeanty and Hampton. It's Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, who are just, first of all, nasty blockers, both explosive. Judkins more powerful, Henderson faster and more dangerous in the passing game. Then you've got Caleb Johnson from Iowa, who is great in that zone blocking scheme. Cam Scatabo, who was awesome when you watched him on TV, and then putting on the tape, I actually even liked him more. And I know he runs in the 4.6s and all of that, but he's a phenomenal back. And then even beyond that, you've got R.J. Harvey from UCF, DJ Giddens from Kansas State, lesser known guys who are going to come off the board in the first few rounds. I love this class of running backs. And you've seen it, Colin, right? Like with cover 2 defenses and everyone in the league spreading things out, everything's cyclical, right? You spread these defenses out, the passing game heavy in the last decade of the NFL. Now teams are trying to figure out, all right, how do we counter that? And it's not, we've seen a resurgence at running back. And yes, this talent is outstanding. And that a lot of these guys would go irregardless of the year. But with the NFL and defenses playing that cover 2, making you kind of drive the ball down the field, trying to avoid the big plays from the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens and all these big arm quarterbacks, you've got to have a running back now to counter it. Who's explosive. And that's why you saw Detroit, and everyone was yelling at Brad Holmes, the GM for the Lions a couple of years. Jahmyr Gibbs, can't draft a running back that high. You already got a running back. Well, look at what that did to that offense. And when the starter goes out a few weeks, and when you've got both of them healthy, it just elevated things. I think that's what we're seeing in the NFL right now.
Okay, so Cam Ward, the playmaker, got a little Caleb Williams. I see it. I get it. Better arm than Shedeur. If I said to you, and you're hearing stories about this, Shedeur, Sanders, Jackson, Dart, are there people you believe that grade Jackson Dart ahead of Shedeur Sanders?
I know of one team that does. I can tell you that. Now, there's 31 other teams, and that team may not draft either of these quarterbacks, but I can tell you that at least one team in the league has a slightly higher grade on Jackson Dart than they do on Shedeur Sanders. And so, to me, I have identical grades on them. I watched Jackson Dart, and listen, I like Shedeur Sanders a lot. Doesn't have a huge arm. does not have mobility. I think that's the biggest mistake in the evaluation, at least early in the process. He's Coach Prime's son. He's fast. He's not fast at all. I bet you he'd run like 4.8 in the 40 if he ever ran one, and he's never going to. But what I do love about him is I think he's the fastest processor of all these quarterbacks in the passing game. Now, his instincts in terms of the pocket and kind of extending and drifting and always looking for the home run and not taking the short change, those sorts of things he'll manage through. And if people don't like him, what they say is he has some of the bad habits that Caleb Williams had that caused him problems as a rookie. But he doesn't have the arm and he has a fraction of the athleticism. But the people who love him love the fact that he's the best pure passer in terms of touch, timing, layering the football, and he's the fastest processor in this class. Now you go to Jackson Dart, bigger arm, bigger kid, more mobile. I think accuracy is good, but it's not quite at the level of Shedeur.
Yeah.
But the thing that made me fall in love with him, and listen, the detractors will say, well, Lane Kiffin, that offense, they run that same sail route concept, and they'll run it 3-4 times a game, and they do things over and over again, predetermined reads. And, yeah, that's true. It doesn't mean he can't do it. It's a matter of getting with him and figuring out how he learns. Can he go through NFL reads and all those things? But when I fell in love with Jackson Dart, when you have the tape access we have, like the PFF Ultimate combined with like the Catapult, this whole system, you can go in and do cut-ups. Go in and watch his cut-ups on his intermediate throws, 10 to 25 yards, and watch his accuracy compared to a lot of other guys in this class. And then the thing that really jumped out to me, I watched over 1,200 snaps in like a 5-day span of these quarterbacks versus pressure. His was so significantly better. And I saw a lot of, I know he's not the size and he doesn't have the arm, but a lot of the same things that makes Josh Allen special in terms of avoiding, quickly eluding, but calm. This presence about him as he's rolling out and seeing the field. He was so much better in those versus pressure moments to throw that 161 clip reel that I went through than all of these other quarterbacks were. That to me spoke volumes, because that in the NFL you have got to make intermediate throws and you've got to be able to work under pressure, and he did both of those at Ole Miss at a very high level.
Okay, Travis Hunter. First of all, I think he's going to be good at whatever he does. But if I was a coach, I'd be like, I'd rather have 12 targets than chasing the other team's best receiver around. I can get a corner in the 5th round. There is no more lockdown corner as good as Patrick Surtain is. There's so much motion, so many sets. The great offensive coaches making it virtually impossible to get your hands on anybody. If I'm New England and I can get 12 targets for this kid, fly sweeps, bubble screens, I don't know. To me, I think he's an offensive player in the NFL. If we want to put him in a nickel because we love his athletic ability, but don't just see him as an offensive guy in an offensive league.
You know what's funny? Like there's two trains of thought here. The first is cornerback. It's hard to play wide receiver full time and then kind of moonlight or minor at the cornerback position, right?
Right.
And so coaches get involved in this process, and they're like, yeah, I understand it, but we can put in installs every week and have like a 20-play package for Travis on the offensive side. And so from a coaching standpoint, that makes more sense. Let's keep him in the cornerback room. He can do some things and work with wide receivers and work with the quarterback on the field, and we can meet separately with those. But let's make him a corner and then do the install and some packages for him on offense.
Okay.
But the talent and what you're saying, those two factors, I think he's actually a better wide receiver. I think he's at his best with the ball in his hand. And the thing that goes, like, we all get so caught up in what we're showing, the highlights, right? How quick he is, how sudden he is. He's a dynamic athlete. I'm telling you, Colin, he's up there in like the top 5 of wide receivers in terms of ball skills in like the past decade that I've evaluated. It goes so, and so while that's great at corner, how many interceptions is he really going to have? So the average guy would get 3, maybe he gets 5 in a year. But if I can have that weapon who's that reliable and refine him a little bit as a route runner, and I already think he's a little bit more refined as a receiver than a corner, I tend to agree. If he falls to New England at 4, you're telling me that they're looking at that and saying, well, sorry, Drake May. We're going to play him at corner, but we'll give you like 20 snaps. No chance, man.
Yeah.
It will come down to the team that drafts him and what they need from him. And then the kind of the load management NBA stuff with him and trying to keep him healthy. But ultimately, I want to get the ball in this guy's hands. And I think, we all know that offense is the way to do that.
Todd McShay now at the Ringer. One last question on this, because when I was a kid, I can remember the top 2 or 3 tight ends. Dave Casper for the Raiders. There were so few of them. Kellen Winslow. Well, I always had this theory, is that as people got bigger, as athletes got bigger, and we've just got more 6'5", 240-pound men playing sports, and they've got good hands because they played on their high school basketball team. And so, humans are getting a little bigger. But what's interesting about the tight end is we just have so many great 6'5", 235-pound high school athletes all over the country. And it's like, well, let's put them at tight end. Some can block, some can't. But I look at the tight end position now, and I never thought tight end was a first-round position. Brock Bowers, total outlier, best college tight end I've ever seen. Kyle Pitts, not as good as I thought. But I do look at Tyler Warren at Penn State, and I watched that USC game. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, if I had to do, could he throw the ball? Could I put him in the backfield? What do you make of him as a prospect? Because I keep hearing it's a weak draft, and I'm like, if you told me one guy went in this draft and we looked 5 years later and went, man, we just didn't get how good this guy was. He is different. What do you make of him historically, his comp, and the Penn State tight end?
He is different. He's 6'5" 2/3", and he's 256 pounds. And when you see him like break tackles and rumbling after the catch, you're like, yeah, he's every bit of that. Then you see him as a route runner, as an athlete. He snapped the ball in that game and went and caught a touchdown pass in USC. So like he could just he's kind of different in that you can. And people are like, well, he's not a great blocker. Like, yeah, no kidding. He was doing everything else. And he's got to improve in that area. I think he's so good after the catch. I think he knows how to get open, even though he doesn't separate. Like Colston Loveland, if you want a wide receiver at tight end, that's your guy. Yeah. He doesn't block. He's terrible at blocking. Let's just call it what it is. Colston Loveland's a wide, and he's a little bit more like Brock Bowers, just a tick behind him in terms of talent. Warren is different, man. Like you're watching the highlights here. He reminds me more of Gronk. If Loveland is Bowers or Kelsey in that mode, this guy's Gronk in that he's going to become a serviceable blocker. But what he does so well is he's going to find a way to get open versus zone, boxing guys out, catch the ball. And then after the catch, he creates so many yards with his combination of his athleticism and then the fact that he's just barreling through guys. So, and then also there's this guy named Elijah Arroyo, who's 6'5", 251 pounds from Miami, who looks like he's about 230 the way he carries his weight. He had 1 year of great production at Miami this past year, had some injuries, but if he stays healthy, he's got a chance to be a star. And then Jason Taylor's son, Mason Taylor, wasn't even utilized all that well at LSU. A lot of underneath, didn't really stretch the seam and do those sorts of things. He's the same guy, 6'4.5", 251 pounds as Arroyo, and has an unbelievable skill set across the board. Those 4 tight ends have a chance to make a significant mark early in their careers and throughout their careers. And I think all 4 of them are going to be off the board, probably in the top 40 to 45 picks.
Todd, you look great. You sound great. Happy for you. You landed in a great spot. Say hi to Bill and the fellas. What a crush, my man.
I appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Todd McShay on Good Stuff.